you didn't already know, Apple's event Unleashed was today. So I've been looking forward to this event since the beginning of the year for one reason: the new MacBooks. I use my current MacBook, which you guys can see right here, for a lot of creative work. So I do a lot of video editing, photo editing, just a lot of work in general. So having a powerful Pro Mac has always been priority for somebody like me. The MacBook Pro is for professionals. Let me start off with that. If you don't already know that, the Pro just means professional. So if you're not going to be using the MacBook for professional work, I don't see why you should go ahead and spend that amount on it. It's pricey. I'll get to that before the end of the video. For most people, it's going to put a dent in your pocket. So I wouldn't advise going for the Pro Edition if you're not going to be doing a lot of professional work. The M1 MacBook Air, the M1 Mac Mini, they're still pretty good options to go for. Apple did announce a few other things like the HomePod Mini as well as the AirPods 3, but honestly, those don't really concern me as much as the MacBook Pros. So the MacBook Pros come with two new chips, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. So a lot of people were talking about the M1X being the next upgrade from the regular M1, which was released last year. I can't really say how powerful these new chips are going to be yet. There's a lot that's been said about them, you know, about how fast they're going to make the operating systems be. Like, I'm talking they're about to be beastly. The new M1 Pro and M1 Max hasn't been tested yet, at least not by me personally, so I can't say how great they're going to be. But based on what Apple has said, based on what they've said about these two different chips, they're supposed to be amazing, especially for professional work. They're supposed to make working with Lightroom, working with Final Cut Pro and stuff like that. You know, anyone that uses graphic intensive softwares, apps and stuff like that is going to love the new chips. So the M1 Pro has 33 billion transistors inside of it, while the M1 Max has 57 billion transistors. So you might not understand what all that means, but it just means that one is better than the other one. So they have insane amount of power, improved GPU, improved CPU. Everything is a lot better when it comes to the processing power in the new MacBook Pros. But I can't really say yet how much better it's going to be. I think these new chips are going to be crazy competitors for Intel chips. So Intel chips have got to step it up if these chips perform accordingly to how they've been defined. That's crazy. I'm really looking forward to them because me, I like having a system that's fast and very efficient. I like a mobile workstation. I don't like having desktops and all that stuff unless it's for gaming, live streaming and stuff like that. The M1 Pro and the M1 Max chips inside the new MacBook Pros aren't even the only things to look forward to. If you own a MacBook Pro that's earlier than a 2016 model, then you probably still have access to things like the HDMI ports, the SD port, as well as MagSafe charging. But Apple dumped all of those different ports in 2016 and replaced them with 4 USB-C ports. So my laptop right here is a 2017 version, the 15-inch MacBook Pro. And honestly, the 4 ports on it has been tough to work with. I'm talking extremely tough to work with. I use Final Cut Pro X as well as Lightroom and Photoshop heavily for my work. So that means that I need quick access to SD cards. And honestly, having access to only the USB-C ports, the Thunderbolt ports, on this edition of the MacBook Pro hasn't been easy to work with because I'd always need a USB-C hub to, you know, be able to use HDMI or SD cards, and it's not been the best experience at all. Fast forward to this year, right now, Apple has announced that they're going to be adding all of these ports right back, as well as the USB-C port. So there's going to be one HDMI port, there's going to be one SD card port, there's also going to be MagSafe charging for faster charging, as well as 3 USB-C ports, which you can use for all kinds of different things. There's also a headphone jack that's been added to the MacBook Pro that allows for high impedance. So that's gonna be cool to see how it works, if it's going to allow me to enjoy music or any kind of audio any better. One of the additions to the new design of the MacBook Pros is the notch. There's now a notch that houses a 1080p webcam, which is honestly impressive. It's good to have a better quality webcam to use when you're doing FaceTime, Zoom calls, all those different things right there, or just streaming if you do that with your MacBook. But I would have honestly preferred to have Face ID included with that notch as well, just like the phones. That way I think there's going to be better security as well as easier ways to log into your system and use different softwares, different applications, all that stuff right there. I honestly don't know how I feel about the notch yet. I'm gonna have to put the laptop to the test, run it through a few days, maybe a few months, then I'll know for sure if I'm okay with that notch. I have no issues with it on my iPhone 13 Pro Max, but I might hate it on the laptop. We'll soon see. But I'm gonna be okay with it. To me, that's a minor issue, and I think that Apple was just trying to create some kind of controversy, you know, something that people talk about by putting that notch right there, because everything else is pretty much perfect, at least in my opinion. Everything is great. Another cool addition to the new MacBook Pros is in the display. So this is also going to come in really handy for people that edit videos, photos, and stuff like that, because color correction is ultra important when you do a lot of video editing, and you want to have the best color accuracy when working with Photoshop, Lightroom, Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, anything that involves colors in general. I don't know if you guys know about Apple's adaptive refresh rate technology that released with the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but if you don't, then you need to understand that it basically allows your screen to respond very smoothly. Everything works very well. So that feature has also been added to the MacBook Pros. And I don't know how well it's going to work with every app. I don't know if every app needs to be updated, you know, to use that feature, but I think it's a pretty neat feature. I love 120 Hertz display screens, and I love ProMotion because ProMotion is adaptive. It changes on the fly between 10 to 120 Hertz. So when you're working with applications that don't require a lot of refresh rates, then it uses less power because it switches down the refresh rate to a low point. But if you're working with softwares, applications, or video games that require a high refresh rate, then it'll switch automatically and use more power. So ProMotion is great for saving power. I'm telling you, I have the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and it's one of my favorite features. It's hard to go to anything less than 120 Hertz once you've experienced it. Besides the ProMotion, there's also mini LED. So mini LED displays were introduced last year to a lot of Apple devices. I'm talking the iPad, the new M1 Air, all different kinds of Apple devices now use mini LED. So that's now been added to the MacBook Pros. And if you know what OLED TVs look like, think of mini LEDs as similar to that. They're not exactly the same technology. They provide very juicy displays. I love OLED. I love mini LED technology. I love them. So bringing that to a system that I use a lot is huge for me, y'all. It's huge for me. I already talked about the new Magsafe earlier. So the thing with that is Apple is calling it Magsafe 3, and it's supposed to charge your system to about 50% in 30 minutes. That's fast, man. I'm telling y'all right now, that's very fast. My system does not charge that quickly, not even nearly. And the battery life is not as good as it used to be when I first got it, and that's expected, I know, but it never was that good. I don't know how the battery life in the new MacBook Pros is going to handle my workflow, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be better than what I've got or what I'm working with right now. And I'm excited to put it to the test. Over the next coming weeks, I'll be doing a lot of videos on the new MacBook Pros, the 14-inch variant and the 16-inch variant, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. So we're gonna see how well they handle. Both of these beastly laptops are already available for pre-order right now. So you can go ahead and check the Apple Store to pre-order the 14-inch or the 16-inch model of the MacBook Pros. The 14-inch starts at $19.99 US. Like I said earlier, they're not cheap. The 16-inch model starts at $24.99. So $500 more. And there's a lot more customization that you got to do that might increase the price, or that will increase the price. I'll be honest with you guys, they will definitely increase the price. Things like increasing the storage size, more GPU, more CPU, different things that you know how it is with Apple. You customize, the price goes up. That's it. It's just starting at, and then it goes all the way up. I think I'll say about $5K is what you should plan for if you want to get the best one. About $5,000 US or even more. It's now a laptop for professionals, a mobile workstation. So if you're like me and you like to bring your work on the road, you take it all over the place, then you should definitely consider getting these new versions of the MacBook Pros. I've included 2 links to 2 versions of the Apple event that was streamed earlier today. So the first link is going to take you to the full video, the full 50-minute Unleashed event from earlier today, while the second link is going to take you to an 11-minute recap, a quick roundup of everything that was talked about during the show. So I want to know down in the comment section what you guys think about the launches today. I'm not talking about the AirPods, the HomePod Mini, none of that stuff right there. Those were also released today, but I don't really care too much about those because there weren't really major improvements made to either of those. But right now, the biggest thing to me is the MacBook Pros. Huge. I waited the entire year for this announcement. Let me know down in the comment section which one of these new additions or upgrades to the MacBook Pros that you're looking forward to the most. And if you've pre-ordered one, let me know down in the comment section. I'd also like to know which ones you've pre-ordered, the 14-inch or the 16-inch, the M1 Pro or the M1 Max? Let's have some fun and talk about it in the comment section. But that's all I've got for you guys in this one right here. I didn't want to waste too much of your time. I didn't want to go too in-depth in this video. Like I said, you can go down in the description if you want to check out the full event and know exactly what is going to be coming to the MacBook Pros. I'm really excited to see what Apple's got in store with these new MacBook Pros. All right, I'll catch you guys in my next video. You already know who it is, man. It's Midas, and I'm out of here, y'all. Can't wait to upgrade this thing, man.